Hi, I'm John Logson from Indie Marketing Mastery. We've got Bonnie Paulson over here, and we also have Joe Solari. Today, we're going to be talking to you about how to scale your author business for long-term success. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it, Joe.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're like John said, we're going to be talking today about scaling your business, and we're going to be touching on some things that you may not have heard about before, because this is a really different approach than you'll hear from a lot of marketers. Because it's not about the latest advertising hack or some gimmick that may work for a short term. It's about building a system that is sustainable, a system that is going to be doing the work with your customers and interacting with them in a scalable way. We're not saying it's not a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but once you get it built, you'll see that it's always working for you all the time. How does it work for you? Well, let's start with an example of a book that we use this on. This particular series was a new pen name. This is the second book in this particular series in a new genre. So while the pen name had been used in another genre, this was the first time it was used in this genre. And we were able to get the second book in the store, the second book in the series, to number 37 in the store. Later on, we're going to show you how this exact system we're talking about made that happen without any advertising on this book at all. Uh, Something that you'll want to do is download our handout. We have this, ours is laminated. Yours won't come laminated, sorry. Um, but this will kind of help you follow along with the things that we're about to do, and give you a way to kind of work through this process after you're done watching this video. You could always go back, if you go with the recordings, and go through these video, use this sheet to kind of plot out this as almost like a workshop for you. Or download it right now and get going on this. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to hand this off to John, and we're going to start with a little quiz.
Right. So what we want you guys to do is basically you're going to answer this question, and you're going to do it through a 1 star to a 5 star. And what we're trying to do here is to gauge where you actually are in this process. And so you can kind of see how much growth you have to go. So the first question is, I have a marketing process that allows a reader to nurture beyond 90 days after finding me. In other words, the reader comes in, let's say an ad takes them to your book, and they are able over the course of that 90-day period to actually grow within your ecosystem and become, people who trust you, who learn more about what you're doing, your books, and so on and so forth. And this way, you actually can say, yes, I have a system that is in place that does do that. So do you strongly disagree as a 1, or do you strongly agree, or are you somewhere in the middle? Okay, moving on to the next question. Do you have a process map that kind of proves that first question, the answer to that first question? In other words, do you have something that actually you can look at or visualize even that just basically says, here is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way through the process that the customer, that your reader is going to be going through? Again, do you agree or disagree with that? We move on. The next question is, you have a marketing system that scales with the audience. So is everything that you have built actually with your marketing and everything else, does it scale along with you? Now, I'm not talking about specifically advertising here, but everything that you have done, that you've built, your bonus content, that we'll kind of get in a little bit more in that in later slides here, but that actually allows your entire marketing to lift up everything and scale your entire business. Again, strongly disagree or agree with that. And do you have a customer retention system? So it's not just about bringing customers to the door. Do you have a way that's actually going to keep them? Because if you bring 1,000 people into the door every single day, that's neat. But let's just say that only 5 of them actually buy something. You got to keep those 5 people somehow, or do your best to keep them so they'll buy all of your books. And then every single day, that percentage point keeps on kind of growing a little bit. And each one of those percentage points is going to make your business grow over the course of time. And you'll have retained all of these customers. So it's not just about bringing people to the door. It's about keeping them once they come inside. Again, strongly disagree or agree. All right. So now what you want to do is you want to add those numbers together. And you're only going to be able to get a number between 4 and 20. Now, if you said all 5s all across the board, why are you watching this video? you're you're doing
And go to the next
fantastically
one.
well. Just go to the
We want
next
to
one.
meet you.
Exactly. So that's what we want to know is just what is that number right now? Okay, and now we're going to talk about where you're at and how you can improve. So I'm going to throw this back to Joe.
Yeah. So we went into this little test that we just did there, our survey, knowing the answer for the greater amount of authors that are out there. We've been running the survey for just over a year on a website and getting people to answer these questions. And we know from previous surveys that most people are going to come in with an answer around 7.6. So, in our view, the whole idea of this little quiz for you is to help you see how much improvement there is for you to do, right? And if you take the time right now to even make some incremental changes and to start adopting some of these ideas, you're going to get ahead of the average, right? Unfortunately, in when it comes to marketing and publishing, the average is a pretty low bar to get above average. So we're going to help you do that. And when you do that, you'll start to see things massively change in how fast your business can scale up.
Okay, but before we get into that, let's address some really important points. The guys have been talking about numbers and trying to find out where you're at. But we're going to talk about that this is not easy work. This is work. This is actual work. A lot of people tell you that, hey, you can click this, or if you go here and you spend this much money here, or you join this group over here, you're going to make millions of dollars. And that's not always accurate if you've been to any of those groups, you've clicked any of those buttons or spent any of those dollars. But what we're saying here is that we want to build a really strong nurturing system. It's actually a possibility for you to do for your readers, and it takes a lot of work. But what it does is it actually opens up your business. As you can see on our site, it says up to 6 to 9 times more for your customers. I would say that you could even be like your engagement with your reader actually becomes that type of engagement that they're looking for, that you didn't realize you were looking for as well. And when we see that, we have people who've taken our course, we have people that we've worked with, and they have said that it's a career changer because it's hard work, but because they actually know what their readers are looking for. And that's massive. So if you look at the QR code, you can actually get more information about that. But we're actually going to actually give you, how many times am I going to say that today? We're going to give you a plan to actually put into place. There was again, put into place today. So you can go and see just how much you can get to know your readers and help them get through your process.
What we're going to do for the rest of this time is we're going to help you fix, or for most of people that we've been engaged with in this, is build a retention system that just doesn't exist. It's an idea that isn't really talked about a whole lot because most of the marketing that you're exposed to in publishing is focused on the one click to buy voracious reader, that it becomes really important that they're going to have a series to read so that you can make the money that you pick up on, because it may cost you more and more to get that click. But what we've discovered is that's really only 10 to 15% of the actual readers that are out there. Most of the market is not that one click buyer. So those systems designed just for that are ignoring a market that's significantly bigger, a market that needs a little more time to get to know you, that might not fully understand when you're talking about a genre or what your book is about. They're an occasional reader. Those are the people that we're building a system for, so they can come in and not feel that you're just a transaction to them, but you're going to be treating them like a human being, that when they decide that it's time for them to buy, you've got something that they really want to sell them. That's why we know from doing this is that advertising doesn't necessarily scale. It does to a point, but what happens is because there's so much attrition in your audience, that being your fans read all your books and now they're waiting for you to write the next one, or you don't have a system that holds people around, so they forget about you and they disappear. Author business needs to have a system that scales, that keeps people around and makes it easy for you to get a return on investment of that cost that you had to pay to get that reader originally. companies that are out there, their business model is to make you pay a toll every time you need a customer. That's how they make money. And if we can help you build a system that gets those people off that toll road and into a place where they're on your land, then you'll be able to maximize that investment you made to find them over time because you don't have to keep going back onto that toll road. And then finally, what we're talking about here is really about your business sustainability, about the profitability of the whole business. Too often, when you hear people talk about um, return on ad spend and cost of acquisition, they're never thinking about the fact that you have all these other costs in your business, and that while the advertising component may have some return to it, it's not enough of a return to cover the other expenses you have in that business. And too often that is the case, and those businesses will fail over time.
The one thing I want to point out ahead of this, though, is that yes, this is going to be hard work, but it's also can be very fun because one of the things that you get to do while you're building this retention system is you're starting to have fun again about talking about the nuances of your stories that your readers want. Because the one thing we could all agree on is that what readers really want are more of your words. That's what they love. That's why they came and read your book in the first place and so on. So just imagine writing just like a couple of pages about a particular character and some event that they have just been through or whatever, a throwaway chapter or whatever, and you polishing it up a little bit and handing that to readers. They're going to love that stuff. They're going to eat it up and they're going to feel more and more integrated into your worlds. And by doing that, it means your business is going to continue to grow because you're going to retain them. But we have to deal with certain things as we're going through this, the stumbling blocks of this. So sales and marketing platforms, they are hiding your customers. So you have to keep coming back. Well, what do we mean by that? Well, think of it this way. If you have a Facebook group, you're going to start seeing where you post something and maybe you have 100 people in your group or 1,000 people in your group, but it's always the same 20 to 30 people who seem to reply. It's because everybody else has gone away. And you could say, oh, I can use the everyone tag now, right? But even that doesn't really grab everybody back in. Why does this happen? Because Facebook doesn't want people in your group. They want people on the homepage doom scrolling because that's the only place they can sell them ads. They can't do it inside of your groups. And so they're going to try to do everything they can to keep people where they make money, not where you make money. So you're going to have to work through, processes of that. But if you think of that, again, more of a reason for you to retain your customers than for you to rely on Facebook to allow you access to your customers. Since Joe, you already talked about the high customer attrition earlier, why don't you take over the final 3 points on this particular slide?
So one of the other things that we have to deal with as authors is a low price point product. Your books, especially ebook, compared to other products that are fighting for advertising dollars on these platforms, is really low margin. It has a high percentage margin, but what you're charging on is a small price point, right? $5, $6, $3.99, whatever it might be. The economics really quickly get to the point where it gets harder and harder for you to justify an advertising cost on that product. Sure, you can look at what you get in the read through of a series, but that's kind of an abstraction. And for people, when you're getting started, you don't have that series to leverage that additional sales. So we need to deal with that as a real factor in what we're doing. There's a lot of misleading strategies, in my view, that come out of digital marketing because of the fact that they are designed for selling a product on a sales page that you own. A big example we're going to talk about here is the whole idea of that traffic. When you see a lot of things in digital marketing, traffic is a really good thing. You want to get traffic to your website. And then once you get it there, you can determine through a funnel process is what kind of interest this person has. And there's ways to see that intent. If you're selling on Amazon or other third-party platforms that you don't have that data on, then you're sending traffic to a platform and they don't reward you for that. What they reward you for on their platform is conversion. And when you look at the mathematics of conversion, traffic that doesn't convert drives down your conversion rate. So one of the things that you've been maybe taught is send all this traffic to a page. that may actually be hurting your chances of triggering their latent marketing to your benefit, because you, by sending people that just land on the page and bounce, you drive down your conversion rate. The other piece that we know from the work that we've done and stuff that I've written about in Advantage is that you're in a winner take all marketplace. This publishing market is a popularity market, and a few people get a lot of competitive advantage because audiences tend to collect around them, and people like to have the social features of talking about their pop culture and a multitude of other things. It could be a whole nother session. But when you understand these forces, you may be a little depressed, for lack of a better word, that that's the market you play in. But when you shift that a little bit and think about, well, this is really how the market is. And if I can use the way that it works to my advantage and start to accumulate advantage in a small compounding way with things like this retention system, then over time, that market will begin to work for me. Now, on the flip side of this, as an author, you've got some superpowers that other people don't have, and we should use to your advantage. Now, the first is your product is an experience. You may not think of it that way because you're like, well, I read a story and I put it in a book, or I have a guy narrate it and he tells the story. People take that script that you create and then they direct it and imagine it in the stage of their mind's eye. That's an experience. And when you do that in a great way, people attach their identity to those characters, to that story world, to those feelings and emotions, and they get ownership in a very deep way that people don't get with other products. We can use that to your advantage.
Think about real quick there, just like Game of Thrones. What
Harry
happened with
Potter.
that when that was coming around? How many people?
Yes.
I mean, sites were set up and everything. It just got crazy. What's going to happen next? And this is my favorite character. That's my favorite character. I would have done it this way. All those types of things. It's absolutely an experience.
It is, yeah. And Harry Potter, I mean, I can tell you at Gryffindor, everybody in my house can tell you what house we've been sorted into because because we're Potterheads, right? Like we identify as, oh, I'm just like Ron. I'm just like Draco. Like these people. It's an experience that you've had. And I don't care about I don't care about the people, like who I honestly don't care who the writer is. I'm all about the book. Like, hey, I want to be in this world. So yeah, it's all about that experience. Good point.
Yeah, and when we start to wrap that veneer around the system we're going to show you, you're going to have a very unique experience for your customers that they can do just that. They can become part of your world, because that, reading is an escape. Fiction authors that are creating these worlds, people read them because they're taking time to go and have that as their pastime and a way to get away. We have this opportunity to engage past customers, and when you engage your customers, you get to know why they're into what you're doing, right? And with this system and having a way to have people give you feedback, you can then use that in your system to find more people like that. And then the other point I made earlier on a different slide, and that is, in this winner take all market, when we do start to use these methodologies and start to compound results, we see things happen really fast. The problem is that when we think, when it went viral, you may have a post that gets a lot of views, but if there isn't something underneath there for people to attach to and want to keep coming back to, it will never truly go viral in the way where it's a behavioral change and people are using word of mouth to spread that. All right, so let's talk about that system. And before you like turn off your computer or slam the lid down because you see this big chicken scratch drawing that we've created of a retention system, we're not going to be going through this whole thing today. We're just giving you an example of a fully developed one that goes from discovery through the entire customer journey. And there's lots of pieces and parts to it. And it could be even bigger than this, depending on what your backlist looks like and the types of experiences that you want to deliver.
This is an example. So don't sit here and try and screenshot this or save it, or like, this is an example. You will not be copying this. This is specifically for someone else's like build up and funnel and everything, because that's how their audience needed it to have done. This is a reader experience. This is not copy and paste from John's readers to my readers. This is literally something that you're going to build out yourself based upon your reader experience and how you interact with them. This is not something that you're going to come in, or that you can even come in and copy, because it's not that. Readership and a relationship can't be copied. The way I interact with John is not going to be the exact same as how I interact with someone different or someone else. It can't be. So you have to understand that when you're seeing this is a possibility. This is like just to show you, like, hey, this is awesome. This is how my system works, but it might not be for you, and that's okay. So don't try and copy this. Just see that it's a possibility. Sorry to
Right.
cut you off, though.
And no, and also think about this is that when you look at this, it might look super daunting to you. But as you're looking at this, just imagine these are your own words. It's not, again, this is somebody else's process flow, right? So these are your own words. Yours might be a lot simpler, but what this is kind of showing you is, hey, there is a map. There
Mhm.
is a process that this person is following. And if you just kind of wing it, which, hey, maybe you're a pantser when it comes to plotting and so on, but we recommend that you actually not do that when it comes to this. But instead, just kind of like think about it a little bit and say, well, at the end of book one, what do I want the reader to do so they stay engaged in my community? And what this is doing is just kind of showing you here is a process, like Bonnie said, but you're going to need to tailor this to yourself. And your process map may look a lot different than this one.
But what we do know about this is when you do put this work in and the stuff that we're going to show you, you'll see a improvement from 4 to 15% in your read through of a series. And if you're an existing author now with a multiple book series, you know what your costs are right now to acquire a customer and bring them in and what you're making. What if on those same costs, you made 7.5 or 10% more on that and had a system that was doing that work for you? Like, that's the real benefit in our view, is to see when you put these things in place, there's measurable results that we can see in people moving through your books over time. And it's not just moving through a series, it's moving from becoming uh, an unknown quantity, a name on a list that maybe have signed up for a free novella, to actually buying a book. And we can do this through this process and see things that, when you're on a service like Kindle Unlimited, are really difficult to see. You're not going to see it for everyone, but there's going to be a portion of your audience that will participate in this and give you visibility on your customer journey.
And also keep in mind that that 10% that he's talking about let's just say that you only make $10 a day and you're thinking, well, so now I'll make 11. It's compounded. So it's over the course of time. The concept of what's happening here is, instead of, again, just bringing people to the door and then, they come in, they buy a book, they leave, and you don't get that read through. Well, no, now you're getting 10% more read through for every, for people coming to that door. And over the course of time, that is a significant growth. And it's a sustainable growth if you do all the stuff that you need to do to keep your people in your ecosystem.
Exactly. But this is, again, and I love that they put my phrase up here. Don't take our word for it. Literally, don't take our word for it. We're not sitting here trying to sell you something. We're trying to help you understand how to get closer to your reader. So, as you can see here, it says start with your most successful series and build out a read through process on the first 3 books. So, what if that's all you had to do was start with just 3 books and understand what is drawing your readers to it? What's drawing your readers into the next book? What is helping them to read through? Do you have an awesome epilogue? Like, what type of thing do you have in place? If you don't have anything in place yet, let's look and see what kind of steps that Joe and John and I are going to teach you to put into place for just 3 books. Nice, easy, not massive, nothing like that's going to scare you. I promise. It's only 3 books. But if you do this and you start with it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can actually see where this would help my readers, how this would help me be more interactive with my readers, then you don't have to take our word for it. It's something that you can practice today, and you literally can put it into effect and see how it works.
This is the one we want you to follow. And if you did print out the sheet, like, it's there for you to work through and write these notes on.
Mhm.
So we're going to kind of walk through this, and I'm going to talk to this slide a little bit and help you understand what we're doing here. And then John's going to be taking you through, and Bonnie are going to take you through how to audit to this. When we're talking about this, we're talking about the terms that you'll be familiar with if you're a MailerLite user. You can do this with any email service provider that has functions of tags and lists and automations. If you're not using an email service provider that does that kind of stuff, then you need to do that because you want to have something that's doing that work for you. If you focus too much on trying to save money and your email is not able to help you segment those lists or to send out emails automatically based on people signing up or clicking on links, then you're making more work than you need to. Now, the cool thing is we're going to show you a process that's really built for those of you that are selling on third-party platforms like Amazon. And we're going to be talking about ways to get people to sign up and click on links to do things that you can't get first-party information on. But if you are selling direct, the really cool thing is, even with MailerLite, and of course with many of the other email service providers, when you build this system, what you can be using to trigger these events are the purchase occasion. So you can say, when somebody buys this book on my Shopify store, it starts this automation in my MailerLite. There's some technology, that you need to connect there, but it's all latent in those systems to talk to each other. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a system where when somebody completes a book, so this is we're really talking about inside your existing series. This, like we said, your best series that you have selected. When they do this, in the back of the book, there's going to be some type of back matter offer or bonus material. And that doesn't have to just be a bonus chapter. There's all kinds of ideas that, and Bonnie and John can talk to some of the examples of stuff that they've done to entice people to click. But when they do sign up, that's going to be what takes them into an email series. And you're going to add them into a book group 1, whatever you want to call that, with the title of the book. And we're going to be removing them from any kind of places where you may have had them come in. So in our example for this presentation, we're not talking about the front end, the kind of the how to get lead gen, but in our system, we have cold people that are part of advertising and lead generation. And then they have to move from cold to warm by completing that novella, that initial novella. So in that case, they would have read the book that we gave them, clicked on a link in the back there to sign up for something else. And then we would have moved them from cold to warm. If they went and bought that book now, and they now have finished that book and gotten that bonus material, by clicking into this automation, we would remove them from the warm group because we want to be moving people in these segments, or specifically in MailerLite, it's groups, or in other platforms, it's lists, or you may be doing this with tags, but you're moving these people into distinct lists that will be getting smaller, which is good. You'll see later why that's good, but you know where they are in their journey. One last thing before I go to the next slide. If you see what I talked through on that first one, once we start playing with these ideas and building this out, a lot of this is copy and paste. Mm-hmm. The difference between what happens in book 2 and book 3 from book 1 is just the copy is changing. The actual mechanics of the automation, you literally will be copying and pasting over. You just go in and change what's the triggers, what material you'll provide them as bonus, what type of content that you write about in the email.
Since you brought up content, there are, you were saying there are a few ideas that you could do, because a lot of people at this point might be looking at this and kind of going, yeah, but what do I do right now? I have no clue. What am I supposed to write to them? Because all I thought of was throwaway chapters, or another short story or something like that. And that could work. But you could do things I've done things such as just author questions. So questions that either you make up and just say, here are the questions that I ask myself whenever I start a new series, for example, or questions that have actually come in from readers that, over the course of the last year or whatever, how long you've had your book out, where you can sit there and say, I'm going to just answer the most pressing questions that readers have. And it gives people, your readers, a better insight into why you created book one, why you created this series, why the characters are the way they are, and so on. And what I've done is I've actually done those author questions for each one of my books, going through the series. Well, I'm still working on it, but for one series, I have it for every one of them. And I get feedback of saying, wow, I never would have thought that you had selected this particular character because of the reasons that you gave, things of that nature. It gives them that deeper insight. And look, we're writers, so I like to tell people about that. When you ask another author, what are you working on, you get a dump of 20 minutes of a story that of a series that they're working on because they're excited about it. Well, just imagine doing that, and readers, they want to hear all of that. Just
Mm-hmm.
write it out, is kind of the deal. And you can do character sheets, you can do throwaway chapters. You could write a short story over a 5-book series and release 3 chapters after each book until they're all done. And I'm sure, Bonnie, you probably have other ideas for this too.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking one of my pen names is an apocalyptic thriller pen name. And one of the things I do is check out their supply list here. Go get their supply list that they used for this bug out area. Or another one was, hey, this family doesn't bug out. They actually board in. So here's how they did their blackout windows. Another one that I actually had a lot of readers reach out to me about in one of my series when it first came out was, you wrote about this. It was like a smoke, a ventilation system that was inside of a cave, kind of a system. How do you build that? And I'd done all the research, and so I was able to actually send them plans for that. And so I was like, hey, I could be doing that for readers, like, right? Like, but for every genre, there's something different. Would I do that for romance? No, for romance, I'd probably do something like go and check out the love letters between these two that we didn't, that weren't included in the book. Or, hey, here's a special secret date that they had that nobody else knows about. Do you want to go and see it? Or, hey, check out them 2 years down the road and find out if they were able to have kids. Like, in every genre, it's something completely different. I love something that you do because you do something that is from the voice of one of your characters, and I think that's brilliant because we're authors, right? This is something that we really want to do, and we want to make sure that we're connecting with our readers, and they don't really care what we're making for dinner on Sunday, unless that pertains to your book. But they do care what your readers are having for that. You said one of your biggest readers is like, hey, I'll read your grocery list.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point of where you were talking about building stuff out, this is what I'm talking about. See how we're getting excited about this
Yeah,
stuff.
we are a little too fun. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
My
No,
my
no, it's
well, no, this is great. This is exactly the point, because it's not hard work when you're excited to do something. Some folks in Cozy Mystery, they'll send out the recipes, for example.
Yes, I'm
Um,
yeah.
huge. I
Crossword
love that.
puzzles.
Crossword
Yes.
puzzles, exactly. The other thing that I did that I just remember this. One of my series, Las Vegas PPD, was obviously in Vegas. I was in Vegas, so I went to all of the haunts where the character. I even went to the condominium complex where the guy lived, and I took pictures of the lobby, and I went and had lunch with a number of readers. We all got together. We had lunch at the place that he always talks about going to lunch at, and we took pictures and all that kind of stuff. And then I shared it as part of the content with readers, and they were dying in love with this stuff. And in fact, the following year, we had a big get together, and a whole bunch of people showed up. So it's amazing the kind of stuff that you can do, and it's actually a lot more fun than you might think it is. Okay, so one of the things you're going to want to do here, though, is we're going to have to start auditing where you're at now, looking at, as you can see here, a comprehensive list of what you have to offer and what people are going to get between books, and so on and so forth. So the 2 primary sections that we're going to be talking about are your groups and your tags, and also your email and automations. So let's go ahead and talk about auditing your groups and your tags.
This is one area where we found a lot of people, when they come to us, have not done anything. And so if your answer is, I don't have a group, I have a group, it's one big group, and I send to all of them, I don't use tags. That's okay. That's why you probably had a lower score when you did that survey. It's important for us to start thinking about how we do segmentation, because once you know where people are in the journey, then you can talk to them better about what they know about your world and what they should expect next. So we touched on this a little bit when we were talking through our simplified read through sequence. You're going to want to have a cold group. So some way that you're identifying people that maybe coming into your world, but have shown no interest in anything. They don't seem like they're clicking on emails. They don't seem like they're reading free content you give them. You need to have a place where you keep those people segmented from the rest of your list, because every time that you send things out to them, they may care just enough to go click on something, but not buy. That's when we get into issues where we have, you send a big email blast, my new book's out, and a bunch of those cold people open the email and click on it just to check out the book, but they still don't know anything about you. So they land on that landing page, but don't buy, drives down your conversion rate. Warm people, people that we know have shown some intent, but haven't actually bought from you. How can you grab those people into a group and then just work on nurturing them? You're not trying to sell them. You're just trying to work on getting them to know you, like you, and trust that you enough that there's is the right place for them to buy their next story from. And then inside this reader sequence that you're going to have, we want to have a group or a tag for every single book in the series so that you can say, this person I know has read book one, but doesn't seem like they've finished book two. Because then that'll give us the ability when we go to your launch strategy to warm that audience up for the next book that's coming up, right? Like helping everybody kind of move down that read through sequence, just one more book. And when that book comes out, only talking to the people that really care about it. Because if I'm on book two and you're talking about book seven, it may actually hurt our relationship because I get overwhelmed by how far back in the series I am.
Yeah.
After you are like, hey, I figured out my tags, I figured out who, what we're doing with regards to who my readers are and what activity they might be taking, then you want to figure out, do I have emails and automations in place? Now, we always hear people say, oh, yes, I have a welcome email. I do have that. And I'm telling them that, welcome to my thing, here's your free book. And then, do you want to be an ARC reader? That's great. At least you have something in place. But if you don't tag and you don't know who's reading what and who's doing what inside of your brand, then you're still kind of just throwing things up at the wall. What if you had an automation that told you that your readers actually don't want you to write stepbrother romance? What if you had a sequence that actually told you, oh my gosh, they're not going through my stepbrother series as much as they are my billionaire series, or, flip that to any genre. What if you had something that showed you that? Well, email and email automations can do that for you. You can also touch base with your readers a little bit more too. John has, I'm actually going to turn this over to him in just a second, because he has a phenomenal drip campaign that he does, and it's actually keeps his readers coming back for more, and they're constantly asking him for more. So and it actually does deliver on his brand promise. John, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I have this thing called Sunday Stories. And basically the idea is this: I don't give it to them out of the gate. So in other words, if a person shows up at my site from a cold customer from an ad, they've never read anything I've done or what have you, and then they don't get it right away. However, the moment one of them actually, at the end of one of the books that they've purchased, clicks for the bonus content, I know they're a purchaser, right? So I know that this is a buying customer. At that moment, now I really want to say, hey, I want to engage with you a lot more. So not only do they get bonus content for the book that they're on, but they're also going to get a little bit more information about, all of the worlds that I work in. I don't overwhelm them, but I just give them, an overview of what I do. And I offer them something else. And that's what's called Sunday Stories. And what this is basically, I have written a bunch of stories over the years, all comedy, because that's what I write, all comedy. But over the years, I've written a number of these little stories, and I typically just give them away because they were never intended to be like big series or anything like that. It's just fun for me, and I know that they're getting laughs from it. If they laugh, they come back for more. So basically, if they say, yeah, I'm interested in this, I give them a taste of what they can get for free, doesn't cost them anything. Then every Sunday they get 2 to 3 chapters of a particular short story. And as it stands right now, I've got more than 52 weeks worth of content that this person will get if they just say, yes, I'm interested in Sunday Stories, which means I don't really have to reach out to them very much at all on a cold, email campaign. I don't have to do that because they are seeing a lot of information. And then I'm going to have some people who say, look, I don't care about all that. I don't care about the new house or the dog or whatever. I just want to know when you're releasing books. That's it. So now I
Mhm.
can separate those people and say, hey, here are the Sunday Stories people. Here are the people who want to read my grocery list. And these people, if I have a book release that's coming out in 3 months, they want to hear from me the day that it comes out. They don't want to hear from me 15 times between there about how excited I am about it or any of that. Just tell me when the book's coming out. That's all I care about. And if you do that, then those people are going to be like, okay, you care about what I want as your reader. You're respecting me. I look at it as whenever you walk into like some type of a retail store and you have like 5 people coming up to you. Can I help you? What do you need? What's this? What's that? Oh, it drives me nuts. I want to go in, I want to browse, and when I'm ready, I'll bring it to the counter. If I need help, I'll come find you. Is that concept in it? But if you come at me, I'm probably going to walk out. You don't want to do that to your readers, right? So
Right.
this is why we give them all of these options so they can work in a way that fits them, which is more important than honestly what fits you. So does
Right,
that make
exactly.
sense?
Yes, I completely agree with you. And then along those lines of let's take the tags and the grouping, the segmenting, like what Joe was just mentioning, and talk, and then what John was talking about, how he has these personalized and customized options, and he segmented them according to, are they only interested in the next book? Are they interested in the grocery list? Are they, who are they and where do they fit? When we have those types of things, Joe's going to actually talk about how that furthers the reader through our process.
All right. So let's give you an example of this in action. And we talked to you, we had a little teaser there with that book. How did we get that book to number 37 in the store without any advertising? This author, first off, let me just preface this. Uh, this book sells itself. Like it's a well written book. If you can't write a good book, like this stuff isn't going to work. So 99% of why this is effective is because people, when they read the book, keep reading. So I just want to make sure that we give credit where credit's due. Uh,
Right.
uh, in essence, we had done this strategy. So we had had people come into the series through various different ways of marketing them into this new series. That was live events, different lead generation systems. We got people into the first book. There was bonus material in that book that people signed up for. And we had a list of 2,293 people on that list that we knew at that point had um, finished book one. When the book launched on the first day, it was 264 in the store. A lot of people really happy with how that would do just out of
Yes.
the
Oh, yeah.
existing fans coming in, right? That's amazing results.
Incredible
The
results.
the only thing that was done was an email was sent out to that list of that 200 that 2200 people telling them that the book was out. And 10 hours later that book was 37 in the store.
Wow.
And it stayed in the top 100 of the store for 3 days. It's still in the top 1,000 in the store. And what was interesting over time, book one ended up getting at a higher ranking than book two. So this wasn't just an effect on selling this next book. This is, in essence, when we're talking about that cumulative advantage working, the launch of that book got so much viewing, people saw it and they were like, wow, this looks really interesting. But it's the second book. I'm going to go read the first one. So all this work we did ended up driving more and more people into this whole series. And this compounding loop will build on itself because we're just going to do the exact same thing for the third book, which is actually what we've been designing this whole marketing strategy around, is the launch of the third book. Everything is setting us up for getting that third book to be a six-figure launch. Now, think about what happened when we did that. We know from our results from our email that we had a 9.2% click through rate. So that's, what, 250, 260 people that click through onto that uh, page. And what if only 20% of those people purchased? Well, that means that our conversion rate, as Amazon sees it, is in double digits.
Mhm.
They're compelled by their code that they've designed into the system. When they see that kind of sales happen and consistently happen over time to do everything they can to find more people like that, to show that product to them and continue that above average conversion rate as
Mhm.
long as possible. Now, the reality is average conversion rates are, if you're doing 1% conversion rate on an e-commerce page, it's pretty good. So
Mhm.
when we start delivering 2 and 3 and 5% conversion rates, let alone a 10% conversion rate, you end up getting all of the latent marketing systems on these platforms aligning with your marketing and doing way more work at no cost to you.
The whys are pretty straightforward. We want to improve our profit, plus we want to reduce the need to create a bunch of weekly work, which we can now do because as you build this out, and again, as you're having fun doing the hard work, as you build this out for your bonus content and your retention systems and so on for folks, it kind of becomes a self-perpetuating system. You don't have to worry so much about, oh no, it's Friday, I have to write something really quick here. Just
Right.
let it do its thing, because as your readers read through it, they're going to have plenty of content for a while, depending on the size of your series or multiple series. I have, for example, over 100 books, so I've got a lot of work to do still, and I'm still
Mm.
going through it. But even what I've done thus far, I'm seeing that I don't have to come up with stuff for a monthly newsletter all the time. This also scales. Again, we're not saying that advertising is bad. You need to bring people to the door, but if they come in and you're retaining more and more and more people, then that's what's really going to start scaling your system, as opposed to they show up, they buy something, they leave, they never come back. You got to keep them there.
Mhm.
It's paced to the reader. We talked about this before. So we were basically saying, look, some people are going to want those Sunday stories that I was mentioning. Other people are just tell me when you release something. Also, you have, since it's done as bonus content, a person who reads super fast might actually read a book today, and then they get the bonus content and jump to book two. But somebody else, like me, for example, maybe it takes me, 4 to 6 weeks to read your book. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter because it's all handled through automation.
Mhm.
And since it's all handled that way, it doesn't matter if a person takes a year to read a book, 6 months, 2 weeks, a day, it's
Right.
all going to be paced to them. And
Mhm.
again, the work is reusable. So all of the ideas that you come up with, you don't necessarily want to look at it as a Harlequin setup. You want to do a little bit of change. But the point is you can duplicate or make a
Mhm.
copy of an automation sequence and then go through and say, okay, I do need to change some stuff here and there in this, but the ideas are still going to be reusable throughout the various series. So now that I've finished one series that I've been working on, I've jumped to
Mhm.
the second series, which is far larger. As I'm doing that, it's actually a lot easier than, coming up with that first series, which I expected it to be worse because there are a lot more books. It's actually not. It's actually been much simpler for me to work with it. So those are the primary whys.
All right. So we've been talking a while. Thanks for sticking through all this with us. Let's just recap what's changed. Like, is your business different now? At least in its mindset change. I know we've laid out a lot of work for you. Um, we did this so we could help you identify the journey. A big part of getting to where you want to go is understanding, is the path that John and Bonnie and I have laid out the right path for you? Like, so if it is, like, now you know which way to go.
Mhm.
Um, we've given you some tools to help you visualize this process. Like, you can take what we've shown you and kind of flow chart this out and see, oh, listen, I gotta create a group here and a group there and a group here, and I need some automation here and I need to have some emails here. The biggest thing that we are excited about having you exposed to is this idea that there's this bigger market of people that aren't one-click buyers, that now you can have a system that they'll stick around and say, well, I'm not going to buy a book, but I'll read this website page of yours. And that's interesting enough for me to maybe download that free book. And by doing something well in those two parts, you've massively improved your chance of them reading that reader magnet, right? Because that reader magnet, just because somebody just downloaded it, the chances that they've read it are really low, single digit percentages low. So
Mhm.
if you could double that and make it 2 or 3 or 5%, then that little bit is going to compound through your system over time.
Mhm.
We've given you a way to kind of identify where the strengths and weaknesses are in your own marketing right now. those of you that have a stronger score that from that first part, that's awesome. So that means some of this stuff is just natural to you, but maybe we've given you a way to kind of, you know, get a little bit better with your form, right? Like some people are naturally good at weightlifting, but then when they work with a coach and they actually learn the form, they can suddenly like lift 30% more, right? Just because you're strong doesn't mean you've got the right foundation or the
Yeah.
right form, right? Um, and this last thing is that system that we talked about of kind of going back, and you can look at those questions again after a few weeks and doing this work or months. Recheck in and see, like, do you feel better about your system? I know it's a subjective score, but it gives you really a good way to see like how something that's so nebulous around your marketing is changing, right? Your confidence in it and your certainty that these things are now in place will play out later as sales. Sales and customers are a symptom of good books marketed well. All right. And for those of you that may not have downloaded the worksheet earlier, here's a chance to do that again. We find that people that kind of work through that and it's printable. Bonnie's got a great way of using it on, was it Good Notes?
Yes, we use GoodNotes on your iPad, or I think they're working on getting it onto like regular tablets, Android system and stuff. It's great because you can actually edit and use it, like put pictures on it, stickers, write on it. It's awesome. That's a great way to edit any PDF file, but that's how you can use our handout in a digital format instead of having to actually print it. Not everybody has a printer, and you don't have
Yeah.
to laminate it. John's
Yeah.
just amazing and laminated it for us for a presentation that we did as a group. So if you can do that and you download it, then put it onto your good notes and draw your own up next to it. So it's a really great way to utilize that handout.
Yeah. And you do it, mark it up. If you do print it out, have it posted, and make sure you get that work done, and I guarantee you're going to see changes in things. And in the beginning, it starts out with simple things like, oh, more people are responding to my emails. I'm getting engagement. They're answering these questions. I'm seeing things tick along the system. I'm seeing more downloads at these points. I'm starting to see sales, right? All this stuff is cumulative and takes time. And we have to step away from our own impatience and understand that this complex system that is your business is really driven by all these people interacting with your content and working their way through it. So have patience and give it time. Now, just like when you go to Disney World, you go on an awesome ride and it's fun. At the end, what do? They drop you in a store, right? So
Yeah.
what we want to do is let people know that right now the course that we pulled this information out of is currently open. We run two cohorts, one in the spring and one in the fall. The fall one is open right now. And uh, the course that we have uh, goes through a process that we call here to there, where uh, we've identified kind of some of the things that we talked about in that marketing survey, but at a deeper level, some of the frustrations that authors that have sold books but seem to keep not being able to make their marketing work, that stuckness, how we can get them from that to there, which is this automated system. And knowing that there's this process of during, right? You have to go through this time of doing a lot of extra work while writing books and publishing and things not being perfect, but helping you get through that process. If you do use this QR code, it will bring you into Indie Marketing Mastery. You can sign up and we'll be sending you some emails to kind of help you understand what the program's about. There's a few pages there that kind of go deeper into the work that you'll need to do. With that being said, Bonnie, John, what else do folks need to know about what we're doing?
The main thing I would say is this: is that if you are super green, totally brand new, you're just getting started, you're not sure even how to publish a book or any of that, this is going to be a little advanced for you. You got to crawl before you walk, basically, and so on. If you are, however, let's say 3 books in, you know how the general idea works. You understand basics of advertising. and so on. You've worked with an editor, you've worked with a cover creator, you've done all of that kind of stuff. You've got the basic foundation down. It's not a bad starting point to start thinking in terms of, put it this way, for me, again, I have over 100 books. So for me, stepping back and going, boy, if I'd have started this at book 3, this would have been a lot easier life than trying to retrofit. It's definitely a valuable system for you. If you are at 50, 100 books, whatever, like I am, yes, it's going to be some work. But that's kind of the thing. Where are you at right now? We say from here to there. Where are you at right now? You're probably going, how do I scale this? I throw more and more money at my ads, but I just can't seem to, I just stay in this spot. How do I scale this? That's what we're talking about here. Nothing wrong with advertising, right? But if it's used for its purpose, it's great. It's fantastic. If it's used to try to solve this problem of scale, it can run into problems. I'll let Bonnie speak more to that.
No, you completely nailed it. Any efforts that you have to try to get your business out there, your books, your scripts, your graphic novels, anything that you have, you're literally wasting your time if you don't have the system set up in the background. So it's like when you go to Costco or you go to those stores and they've got the sample set up and they're like, "Hey, would you like to try a bite of the sample?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's the best ice cream ever." And they're like, "Yeah, we don't have any here at the store." It's like, are you drunk? Like, what just happened, right? Like, what is going on right now? Um, I I just think that when we have the systems in place, like we're showing you, when you have those systems in place, all you're doing is making a smart investment when you actually do your advertising and your marketing efforts. You're making a smart investment at that point, and it's not relying on your advertising. It's saying, "Hey, now I know that the system is working. Now I know that the system's here for my readers. I just need to go find more readers." That's exactly what advertising and marketing is. And so if you don't do this, are you dumb? No, not at all. But what we're saying is take your investment and make it stronger. Like take that dollar or thousands of dollars that you're going to be doing because everybody invests at some point, right, in their business. Are you set up the correct way so that it's actually a good investment, or are you just trying to get rid of money? If you're trying to get rid of money, I will give another QR code where you can just send it to my Venmo account because I do not hate money. So but essentially get your system set up so that when you do invest in your advertising and your marketing, you're getting that money back.
That's it.
Awesome. Yeah. And so if you're interested, the system will be around. Please take a look at it. There's some pretty valuable emails that you get when you sign up that kind of go deeper into our process and
Mhm.
help you think through this decision because frankly, we don't want you to really do this until you're ready, until it's the right time. We'll be around. It will only get better. Um, there is a lot of work, and we don't want to spend too much time talking about that. Um,
But it's worth it.
all because there's other parts to the things that you have to do prior to setting up this retention system, and there's also when we get into advertising into that retention system. So there's getting all the preparation work, building the system, and then how do we feed that system? Well, we go. Bonnie is highly qualified advertiser and marketer, and it's her systems that help really feed this system later on. And we've set you up for success because by the time you get to that, you know the answers for things like who is your ideal reader, where can you find them. All right, well, hopefully you've got a few nuggets out of this and have learned a few things from us. We certainly are appreciative, Brian, of setting this up for us and having the opportunity to talk to more authors and help them up that learning curve of publishing their first or 15th or 50th book.
Thanks for being here, guys. This is awesome.